Hi, my name is Jeremy Mercer. I'm the CEO of Matador Capital. I specialize in industrial B and C assets in the Texas and Oklahoma markets. And today I'm going to tell you about what I look for when I evaluate a tenant to occupy a space that I own. Okay, a lot of people are always concerned about the credit of a tenant. They want a big corporate tenant that's credit driven or has some private equity company behind them and all these different things. Those things are all good and well. And yes, those people operate typically very good tenant-landlord relationships. But here are the main things that I look for. I'm in Class B and C industrial, and that's typically more your local owner entrepreneur as a tenant, your mom and pops, regional credit, not Amazon. So when a tenant comes to lease my space and we've agreed to terms on the deal, I ask them for their last 2 years worth of tax returns and their year-to-date P&L and balance sheet. So one thing for tenants that's always a red flag is when I ask for their financials and they can't turn them over literally within a day or so. If they can't, that means they probably don't have their books together, which is a red flag for me. Another thing I look at, so when I get their balance sheet, I look at how much cash they have in the bank. That's what I really care about. Can they support their expenses on operating their company, their payroll, all their expenses? And then another thing I look at is how much do they have in accounts receivable and how much do they have in accounts payable. I like to see a big spread between receivables and payables. If their payables are higher than their receivables, then we have a bad cash situation coming up pretty soon. So I like to see high AR, low AP. And then I like to look at what their debt load is. Are they servicing debt on maybe a lot of machines that they need to produce their product, and how does that really affect their cash flow? Because a lot of that debt is not a P&L item because you're only seeing maybe the interest, or if they're doing operating leases, you will see all of it on there, but sometimes they're just doing a purchase. The other thing I like to do is I like to look at their P&L and see what they're paying in rent today, and then replace it with what the proposed rent is on the new facility, and make sure that their company is still profitable and healthy if this is an increase in rent for their company. Again, the big thing I like is cash in the bank, right? Cash is king. So sometimes, on these lower credit tenants, they might have a situation and they want to make the deal. So you got to think about ways to solve for some credit deficiencies. Again, I like cash in the bank for them. Reserves help you weather any kind of storm, but there's a couple different things you can do to solidify your position as a landlord to mitigate your risk. So one thing you can ask for is an irrevocable letter of credit. These, in my opinion, are the biggest waste of time. And when people ask for them, it's a burden for everybody. It's the dumbest concept I've ever heard in my life, that the tenant has to go to their bank and say, hey, I need to give this landlord a $100,000 irrevocable letter of credit. And the bank says, great, we'll seize $100,000 of your dollars and you'll pay us to do so. And we'll let this guy draw on if he needs to. So that's just dumb math to me. All we're doing is making a bank rich. I don't have it in my pocket. They don't have it in their pocket to operate their business. I don't think it's a lose-lose and the bank wins. And there could be a dispute. It might be irrevocable, but if there's a dispute, a bank probably won't touch it and they probably won't release it. So another thing you can take into consideration is sometimes tenants need tenant improvements, and you can just say, hey, you know what? I'll give you some free rent and you do your own improvements. I'm not gonna spend any money on it. So that's another solution. And the big thing I like to do is just usually get an enhanced security deposit. Getting an enhanced, maybe 2 to 3 months of security deposit versus your typical 1 month, that puts money in my pocket where if something goes wrong, at least I got cash, because when it all goes wrong, it goes wrong for everybody. So that's my best solution, and that's what I look for if it's a startup or a struggling company, but the deal makes sense for some levels. If we can get some credit enhancements and find a way to solve for that tenant, we'll do the deal. So those are the things I look for when I evaluate a tenant. Those are the main things. Again, my name's Jeremy Mercer, CEO of Matador Capital. If you want to talk more about commercial real estate investments, like my YouTube channel, hit me up on Instagram, matador-capital.com.